Okay, so here is my first image is a Carl Wersum painting. I've been looking at Chicago imagists lately, Gladys Nielsen, Jim Nutt, Ed Paschke, all of these people, and got really interested in more of how they worked with pop culture and integrated into their work, pulling more from comic books, these sort of things that were more emotional. Whereas a lot of what we associate with pop culture and Andy Warhol and this sort of stuff is really cold and kind of not personal at all. So lately I've kind of been on a kick of all those people. This is my piece I'm working on right now, which is a series of cut up pieces of MDF, and basically I'm using a laser cutter to cut out all these different pieces, and they can be arranged into different creatures and into different formations. Lately I've been trying to think about corners and stuff like that with the museum presentation coming up as well, how I could possibly work these into those types of spaces or more different types of spaces. I have a show coming up in Prague where the space is very narrow, so this will be good for that. And it actually did come to me in a dream, but in my dream there were just puzzle pieces, and because I was anxious about moving all my paintings probably, so I was manifesting that in my dreams. And I got this giant studio case from the music department that somebody left outside. It's had it was take me post-it note on it, so I just took it. And then I was like, I should try to fit a piece into this, a whole show. That would be cool if I could have a whole show in this one giant suitcase. So I started making these pieces. Originally, they weren't going to look like this, and Mikey can be right about things every once in a while. And I was down in the wood shop and just kind of brainstorming, sketching onto pieces of MDF, talking with Dallas, Dalton, and Mikey. And these more amorphous, more organic forms, I think lend themselves better than I was going to think. I was originally thinking about geometric forms, but I kind of went away from that. Other artists I'm looking at, Peter Saul, who does psychedelic history painting, because I've been thinking about how to deal with multifigural compositions and just literally how do you put people into certain compositions and arrange them so there's a certain flow of all the bodies and all this sort of stuff. And Peter Saul is also somebody dealing with a lot of contemporary issues. He's got a bunch of Donald Trump paintings and paintings of Hitler killing himself and this sort of stuff. So those have been interesting just in terms of how he's bringing in contemporary issues, but also how he's putting stuff onto the canvas. Here's a couple of my other pieces I did a couple months ago. I have a tendency to keep adding stuff to everything to make it better. So I'm always I'll just keep painting on it. It's gonna get better. So I started off with okay, I'm gonna do a portrait in a portrait format, and then that's gonna make the painting more solid and hold together hopefully. And so I did these more classical portraits. And the one on the left there, I guess it's on the left here too, isn't it? The one on the left is kind of my imaginary character of these type of future bioengineered people, an aristocratic class, because I think a lot of biotechnology and changing our bodies with computers and stuff won't be available to most people. So we could possibly create this entire aristocratic class that are super geniuses and super strong and stuff like that. So I was painting on that guy, but also it's got these kind of wacky, cartoony elements to it as well, and video game style elements too. The one on the right is more of an avatar of sorts, so thinking about how we project ourselves into a digital space. And one kind of interesting thing that came upon me in looking at a lot of like video games or virtual reality is that there's like no emotional manipulation through camera angles, so, so like a side scroller video game is just presenting everything that's there. It's not like meant to have like this epic quality or something like that, or virtual reality. It's just yourself controlling the actual camera angles, so you're not like really being manipulated by them as well. So this one is also just like straightforward. And then these two, the one on the left is called Nighttime Guests, and that came from creating a painting again, like based on one of my dreams, where I'm in this swamp, and then this little cat creature came and started talking to me, and yeah, that happened. And then the one on the right is called Bitmap Terminal, which is this like bio epigenic kind of exploding blob. And from that, I've started thinking about there's the idea of a homunculus, which used to be like a miniature version of ourselves. Like everyone thought we were just like tiny little people, and like birds were like little tiny birds, and then they just got bigger. And then I don't know when, probably like 300 years ago or something, we started thinking about epigenic conditions, when that basically means kind of like the conditions where like amino acids form into blobs and create these sort of life creatures. So reading about those things, that's why they're all blobby. Where am I at? Oh, I'm doing good. So this is another painting kind of showing like some different techniques that I put into one work. And the one on the left here is these types of elements here are like screen printed and then hand painted on top of the screen prints. So I often will use those types of elements to like cement certain things in place that are like extremely difficult to do by hand. Since my paintings are kind of this amalgamation of like both handmade marks and which is what painting is all about, is generally like using your hand and not making something that's mass produced, and combining that with more like mechanical mark making using like plotters and my stupid painting machines, which I think a lot of you guys have seen, like the Bobble Ball with brushes on it and that sort of stuff. And then I got into I heard about this planet called 90377 Sedna, and that's Sedna's orbit right there. And a lot of followers of this like fake religion called Discordianism, they were like part of a campaign to rename Sedna Eris. But it's a planet. It takes like 11,500 years to orbit the sun, and it's on the outer reaches. It's like the farthest known planet, so nobody really knows what it's doing. And it's got this wonky elliptical orbit, and that orbit's even weirder than that. Like sometimes it'll come closer and it'll like bounce all over the place. So from that, before I get into that, so here's like, I used to write like SEO copy. So I've written like thousands and thousands of articles, and here's like my weed site with like, I think I have around 800 articles all about marijuana, and then, I just get passive income off ad revenue. And this is like something I used to do a lot, and I like did it for other companies, and it started getting me to think about, okay, like all this stuff is based on the idea of like you're writing for Google. Like if you write in something to Google and Google finishes your long tail keyword phrase, you make something on that because people are searching for it. So marijuana and exercise, people do that. New research, marijuana does not trigger depression or psychotic symptoms if somebody's writing. And so like when you're kind of playing with this, I was thinking about like, okay, when I was making all these websites, I had like 30, I still do, I have like 30 of them. And like each with hundreds and hundreds of articles. I was working at a place where the owner was German, and everything was done in Czech. And I was writing in English, and there was like thousands of articles we had to rewrite. And I started realizing that there's like no oversight at all. So, because nobody understands English. So, like, I got my friend to start writing articles with me, and we started writing about like how the right wing's and postmodernism's like destroying the planet and all this stuff. And they just put it out there because they didn't know any better. From that, I made this website called Lab Grown Steaks, and labgrownsteaks.com. I just bought the domain when I heard about Lab Grown Steaks, and at first I was like, I'm gonna just start populating this with keyword phrases about lab grown steaks, and then I can resell the domain. But then it just started getting weird. It started getting really, really weird, and it's like free form writing. Like, here's a section. Oh, that would be sweet. Maybe we could all go down to the river and cook up some lab-grown steaks. But do they even taste real? Like, really real? Oh, you betcha. They've got the realest ones I've ever known. Hoofhopper Incorporated used to make them good, but these are even better than that. Double plus good. Oh, yes, they are indeedy. I wrote graffiti on the bus. And, like, so it's, like, all this stuff, and, like, there's a lot of this content as well. Just like sitting there. This one's kind of fun. Like, you know what, buddy? You know what? I love you. I love you too. Like, I mean, I'm really in love with you. That's cool. What's that even mean? It means it's cool. Anyway, so from that, I bought.
So how do you generate the text?
I write this. Yeah. Yeah, there's more. So I bought 90377.sedma.com because I was like, oh wow, it's available. So then I started writing content for that too, and then from here I make a lot of videos and like just upload them from my phone. So I started making these videos. Here's me. This is me rereading the transcript of Donald Trump's call, composed with messages I had with Mikey.
Randy very much knows what's happening, and he is a really capable guy. If you could speak to him, that would be great. The former ambassador. Word's good. I can keep painting or take a break, either way.
So yeah, that's the perfect call-in I did. Like, impeachment bingo is just like mashing up the impeachment, making music for it. And then in this one, I redid Donald Trump, like made a Donald Trump on the Golden Girls, used like the Golden Girls transcript and replaced everyone's name with Donald Trump.
As long as you've had at least 3 dates. It's from my video class. My final project is a day in the life of my roommates. Sure, honey. That sounds like fun. Thank you, Donald J. Trump. You're a real friend. You and Donald J. Trump.
So that's that. And from here, also on here, I started like writing a lot and doing interviews with myself, and I use Talk to Transformer. So this is just a piece of like AI generating writing. So I don't know how we're doing on time. I'll just write something really quick since we're getting low on time.
Yeah, 5.5 minutes.
Okay. And so now, like, Transformers, like, generating text based on what I just wrote. Do a comedy skit in questions. Give your readers advice. Can he change someone's mind? Do you have anything else in mind? He said a lot of things. How to get cast into writing for real. What a sense of humor. Write scripts and talk about them for 3 months. get to know the guys. Okay, so that's all that stuff. Back to this guy. Where's my little thing? Oh, here it is. So these are two paintings I did. The top one is like a little character, and then it's Velcroed to the painting, so you can like take it off and reconfigure it into different ways. And then I've also been working on these pieces, making them kind of more like standalone pieces. Here's like a larger history painting, so to speak, multifigural composition, where I like ripped off kind of like this, didn't really rip it off. It's just pretty common compositional element of this one thing flowing down into the right. These are all my notes about like movie ideas I have and stuff like that, and like things I overhear in the bar. And that was the idea I had for like a psychedelic hospice. I do like this quote here that kind of goes into the next thing too. Expressionism focuses on the power of spectacles. So also the idea of like Guy Debord and this sort of stuff, the idea of the spectacle being this projection from forces that are put onto television that create narratives that try to control our lives. And expressionism being like a reaction against that form of control. That overheard Tinder date was pretty funny. The one part you don't know about me is the demons. That was an actual thing I overheard. And on the bottom, make a piece called Telepathy, move stuff on a table using your mind. And then I found out Alvin Lucier did that in like 1967. And then going back to basics, I've got, this is what I'm working on right now. And then on the right is Richard Dievenkorn like drew his jacket a bunch of times. So like he went through all these phases, and he did the Ocean Park series, and he did this very abstract expressionist type of painting, but he kind of kept coming back to the jacket, and there's more of his jacket paintings there, and he basically composed all these different, throughout the years, would just sit and like paint the jacket again. So over the weekend, I've just been like working so much on all my other stuff, I was like, I should just paint like portraits in my sketchbook. So I kind of like went back to basics and created these, little sketches in my sketchbook with oil paint. And that's my little briefcase that I have like with a palette in it. So that's it.
Thank you. 2 minutes for questions.
So are you still operating those websites? Like up
Yeah.
till like today, like now?
I mean, you don't have to do much unless they get hacked, which they do. But yeah.
So other people start adding content, is that what happens?
Yeah. Basically, like I got hacked like by all these, I don't know what it said, but it was all in Chinese. And so they'll try to like use a website with a high search good standing and try to put like ads for pharmaceuticals or something. Or like clicks to malware or viruses and stuff. But they're pretty good. I've had to pay people to fix them occasionally. I can't do it.
How do you see the websites and kind of this stream of consciousness writing related to your paintings, if it does at all?
I think, like painting is this, like painting for me has always been something I'm supposed to do more seriously. So I started making music, like not seriously. And then that was really nice, so I would like make music in my free time. And then I started just like writing more and getting into writing, because I'm pretty fast. And so like that started coming into how I generate ideas for paintings and these sort of things. I try to also be like really receptive in terms of, probably maybe too receptive, but like if I hear an idea, I'm like, oh, I need to do that like now. So I guess that's kind of part of like how I create paintings and compositions as well. Except for the new paintings, I created that like series of sketches to try to solidify it more.
Any final question for anyone? Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take the 10-minute